Gareth Southgate gets the sack. And who do England call? Eddie Howe. He has a choice to make, club or country. We're going to get into this. We're going to read in between the lines, find out what the narrative is right here on Toon Tactics TV. All right, guys. Great to have you on Toon Tactics TV. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Now we're going to get right into it. We're going to break it down into the questions that Sherlock Holmes used to ask, or I don't know, every journalist asked now anyway, which was we're going to go into the 5 whys: the who, the what, the why, the when, and the where. To be able to read between the lines of everything that's come about in the last nearly 24 hours of the news breaking that Eddie Howe is one of the top candidate for the England job. And we're gonna look, as you guys can see, this is the article that has going straight into the who. This is the article that broke from our man Craig Hope. Speaking of who the folks don't know, is one of the main premier tier 1 journalists here in the Northeast. He writes for the Daily Mail and also has his own podcast. Now, why is it that it's important that for us to know this? I think part of the reasons of us knowing that it's Craig Hope is because, like I said, he's a tier 1 journalist, so you know straight away that the story is legitimate. The other is that he's one of the top correspondents here in Newcastle, and he's obviously said to have kind of real sources within the Newcastle hierarchy. Me personally, I suspect one of those sources being Darren Eales, but that's just my perspective. And so that lets us know, for me anyway, this lets me know already that whatever we're about to read at the moment right now, then that for me, Newcastle United, the Chiefs, the hierarchy already are trying to control the narrative from the onset. And we're going to delve into why they're trying to control the narrative from the onset. Obviously, we find that a little bit later that Mr. Southgate, literally several hours later, gets sacked. And I think that's why the story broke so late last night. And typically these stories break late last night. So this is the who, Craig Hope. So we know the story is legitimate. We know that it's coming from trusted sources and a trusted journalist and legitimate sources. And also, we also got to remember the who is that the way that we'll see that Mr. Hope writes the article, he leaves that tension of Eddie Howe. He loves the day-to-day. He goes on. He loves the day-to-day training, the being on the grass, out on the field. But if England come along, he has a choice to make. So he keeps that tension going. So part of that is just trying to read between the lines. So is Eddie Howe going or not? Or does he want to be on the green grass or not? He's training, or does he does he want to manage England? But he leaves that question open. And obviously that's part of being a journalist and writing interesting articles. So moving on to the what. What does what's the article about? Obviously, we've already talked about it. And he says it right from the onset right here is that the Newcastle, that Eddie Howe is a top candidate to replace Gareth Southgate. Now, this article was written literally about 10 to 12 hours before we find out today that Gareth Southgate has stepped down as England manager. So I think Craig Hope must have got a sniff of this and contacted the Newcastle higher ups and said, "Hey, I know Southgate is going to get sacked. You might want to tell me what's going on with Eddie Howe, because I'm hearing that he's the top man for this job." So this is the what. And we know straight away from the article, it's saying, look, the Newcastle man is like to be FA's top choice. The hierarchy have accepted that. Howe has a buyout clause, so they already said, hey, he's going to cost a lot of money. The hierarchy really trying to say he's got money. Like, they're going to have to pay money to get him if they really want him, and we really want him, and he loves doing the day-to-day stuff. And look, it's going to take a lot of money to get him out of here. And so already, this is why I think this article has been and the narrative is that the sources are from Newcastle, obviously the higher ups, and they're trying to control the narrative and trying to be in control of the story from the beginning, which is fine. They're supposed to do that rather than it tail off and go elsewhere. So the tension and what is this about is, um, um, as we now know, obviously this is speaking in hindsight, but this article was just before that saying, look, um, the England job is opening up. Eddie Howe's a top candidate. Newcastle are saying there's a huge buyout clause. Eddie Howe loves the job. Eddie Howe loves being out day to day on the field. However, he is and he loves England. It's always been a dream. He will have a decision to make. Interesting. That's the little caveat. That's the little grain of doubt that's in that. The next is the why, and I think the why was this article written? We've already spoken a little bit about it, but it also I think links into the when and how. And I said in terms of the why for Craig Hope, I think he heard that England, that Gareth Southgate is going to step down. I think he was going to release that story regardless, but he gave the Newcastle hierarchy a chance to give their end of the story. They snatched at that opportunity, or maybe they even heard, maybe the Newcastle higher ups heard that, look, Gareth Southgate's going to step down. They were contacted by the FA saying, look, we want to interview Howe or want to speak to Howe. And then the higher ups called up Craig Hope and said, maybe that's even the best story. The higher ups called up Craig Hope and said, hey, how would you like an exclusive? Look, I think the FA are going to look for Mr. Howe to replace England. But look, we've got this huge buyout clause. He loves it here. But ultimately, the decision is up to him, which is the truth. So I think the why is the main reason behind this article is for Craig Hope it's an exclusive. It's a great story. He keeps attention going really well. But also, I think the Newcastle hierarchy, Darren Eales, our new sports director, Paul Mitchell, and others want to keep the narrative to say, look, he's a high caliber candidate for the England job, but he's ours, and we're going to do all that we can to keep Eddie Howe happy and at Newcastle United. Now, the when, obviously, the new article itself, Craig Hope's, was released late last night. I can't remember if it was 10 p.m., 11 p.m. And I think this is, people should be in bed. I wasn't in bed. I was reading the article. And so it took a little while for the news to really, really come up. I think the main thing about when it was is that literally about 10 to 12 hours later, Gareth Southgate steps down. Imagine if this story hadn't come out and Gareth Southgate steps down, and then we hear that Eddie Howe is the number one candidate. Now Newcastle have a whole load of heap of questions to ask. They're having to be on the back foot. They're having to fight off people and say, no, we're still going to keep him. He's not going to go anywhere. Then you just backtracking and you're always on the back foot rather than release the story now, 10 to 12 hours before Gareth Southgate steps down, and you've got the chance to be in control of the narrative and say what's going on. And so I think that's the key behind the when with this article. The where. Now, what's the where got to do with it? Well, it's interestingly enough, we're in Newcastle now. Where's Eddie Howe now? They are in Germany. So there's no opportunity unless there's journalists that are planning to fly out to Germany, which they might do. Eddie Howe is currently within the security of the Adidas headquarters, and I'm sure they're not going to be allowing any journalists in at any time soon, apart from Newcastle photographers and people that are writing about actual training. And you would have seen footage has been released today of Eddie Howe looking really happy alongside Paul Mitchell, the Adidas bosses. Everything's great. Gareth Southgate, is he? What's happening there? Oh, yeah, he just stepped down. Oh, yeah, I wonder who they're looking. Nobody's asking them that question. And so the where is Eddie Howe is out of sight, out of mind-ish in terms of physically. He's not in Newcastle, he's not in England to be answering any question, to be harassed by the press. He's away from, and I know this trip was timed way before that, but it's all interesting how it's all coming together now. So it helps Newcastle that he is away, and obviously that they have already taken control of the narrative themselves. So what does this all point to? And we're going to kind of answer, what's the conclusion of all of this? What are we, what are we saying? I'm going to, and this, I think, it comes down to this, and I'm going to go to the bottom of the article as well, because that's where the conclusion is at. I have to get past all these adverts. Goodness me, Daily Mail, getting that advertisement money. Have I gone past it? Trying to get that advertisement money in. Okay, so this is what it comes down to. As it says, however, this is Craig Hope. However, should an FA approach materialize, which it is, I think, we understand that it would leave him, being Eddie Howe, with a decision to make. Given his ambition to one day manage his country, it could be that Howe believes timing is not right. So it could be that Craig Hope has also got the way from the Newcastle owners. Look, yes, we're trying to control the narrative. Yes, we're doing all of these things, and there's a big budget there. We're trying to keep him happy. We're trying to keep everything, on the low. But it's unlikely, and probably maybe he has heard directly from people close to Eddie Howe, that it's unlikely that Howe would say yes to the job. It's hard to say. It's hard for him to say it, but the timing is just not right. Newcastle have just made it through through this first cycle of PSR. We're about to spend, I personally believe this, that we'll spend a lot of money on new transfers. We're moving into phase 2. I know people don't like phases nowadays, but life is a whole process. It's full of phases. And look, this is an important part of where we're going. And Eddie Howe himself has been a massive part right at the beginning. He survived Dan Ashworth. He's survived relegation. He's got into the Champions League. He's now, all the business of Tonali and everything else has come with it. And now there's England, the PSRs, and now there's England. This is the year now when Newcastle can really step forward, really get into the Champions League. And yes, he wants to manage England. It's a tough decision to make. And I think that's the other narrative they want to get out there. Eddie Howe isn't just rejecting England out of hand. Like if he is to reject England, I think he will say no. And this could be quoted, could be clipped for this one day. But I think from reading from this article, I think Eddie Howe will say no. But it's not like it's easy for him to say this. It's really, really difficult. He's got opportunity to manage Jude Bellingham, all the other, Harry Kane, all the other fantastic players, and really stamp his mark on the team. And he's gonna have to say no to it. And this is where it says, but after a turbulent start to the summer, at Newcastle, with a mad dash to meet PSR requirements, as I've spoke about, and the sudden departures of allies. Again, Amanda, allies, he put it in bold here, Craig Hope. The sudden departures of his allies. Amanda Staveley and Murdoch Gadusi, very interesting from Mr. Hope there, as well as the arrival sporting director Paul Mitchell, a club appointment. Again, he says, he makes a distinction here. Amanda Staveley and Murdoch Gadusi, Eddie Howe's guys. Paul Mitchell, a club appointment, PIF appointment, in other words. It is not known what impact this has had on the head coach. So Craig Hope throws it back and says, but there's still this, you never know. This is uncertainty. This is on shaky grounds here. Anything can happen. And Craig Hope is right about that. Anything could happen. And Eddie Howe could still accept the job of England job, which is, me personally, I think it's a privilege to be doing anything for your country, whatever, whether it's sports, whether it's entertainment, whether it's the military, whatever it is, for your own country, it's always a privilege to be doing that. And it's a blessing from God to be able to do that. And so I think, I think Eddie Howe takes it that way, to be honest. And so, it's an incredible story. It's an incredible time for Newcastle right now, and there's been a lot. There has been a lot of change. It's been one after the other. The mad dash for the PSR, Amanda and Murdoch leaving. Now the England job, which is going to be in focus, and the quicker England can make an appointment, the better it will be. I'm hoping it's going to be Graham Potter or somebody, just not Eddie Howe. I do rate Howe, but let me know what you guys think. Do you think Eddie Howe's going to take the job? Do you think I'm just reading into my own biases, for instance, that it's too good to turn down? Have you guys already selected a new manager to replace? I've seen on social media people talk about Tuchel, talk about Pochettino. For me, I wouldn't want any of those guys, to be honest. And until we find out who the England appointment is, I'm not going to reveal to you guys too soon about who I think would be the best candidate. Right now, we have the best manager, in my opinion, with Newcastle United. And I think, and I'm hoping that he would stay on to see the work that he has started, the seeds that he has planted, that he will see the fruits of that and then bear and then be able to enjoy it. But let me know what you guys think, and make sure you like and share and subscribe. It's so good to see so many people viewing the videos. It would be great to hear your views on things, your on the videos, even if it's just to say Eddie's staying, Eddie's going. This is the manager. This is not that I would like. This is not the manager I would like. Let me know what you guys think. And until next time, guys, take care and God bless, folks.